Smooshy. This is our morning routine. We cuddle every morning, and I am continuing my project of reading through Feline, the Feline Nutrition Foundation archive on a website called hair-today.com. We are reading their article, "There is no such thing as a vegan cat." So, Smooshy, do you remember the story I told you about two of your Sphinx predecessors? I adopted two boy kitties, and this was years ago. And one of the boys was about 4, the other one was about 5. Don't know for sure because the owners did not know exactly when they were born. But those two kitty cats were sphinxes who were vegan, and they were so unhealthy. So unhealthy. They'd spent all their first years of life as vegan, and it had taken a toll. They had really bad eyes. They had really bad teeth. They'd lost a lot of their teeth. They had really bad skin, and internally they were all jacked up. So, anecdotally, I do not believe in vegan kitties. Let's read this article about "There's no such thing as a vegan cat." Here we go. The reasons people give for becoming vegetarian or vegan are diverse. Primarily, it's the desire to become healthier and to prevent or stop cruelty to animals. Those are admirable reasons, but extending that desire to your cat, an obligate carnivore, is a recipe for disaster. These cat owners don't realize that in trying to convert their feline companion into a vegan carnivore, they themselves are inflicting cruelty on their cats. I call this passive cruelty because in doing so, they disrespect and go against the true nature of cats, who are designed to extract their nutrients from raw meats and bones, not from plants and vegetables, as rabbits, cows, or horses do. Every single cat is born with a set of natural instincts, such as hunt, catch, kill, that remain unaltered despite living with us. These natural instincts are amongst the reasons why they are so lovable to us. When we throw a paper ball, or when Kitty jumps up high to catch the feather attached to a string we weave through the air, for the cat, that is real hunting. Kitty is a predator, plain and simple. Many vegan advocates state that even wild cats consume vegetables from their prey, and that's enough reason for them to consider cats as potential herbivores. They are dead wrong. Outdoor and wild cats can consume plant matter as presented in the gastrointestinal tract of the prey they hunt. Very small prey, such as mice, might be eaten whole, and thus the gut would also be consumed. But for larger prey, the gut would likely not be consumed. The plant material from the gut of prey accounts for only 1 to 10% of the overall diet, usually towards the lower end of that range. The main reason remains here. Most fibers and plant material cats consume in nature are entirely different metabolically than high glycemic carbohydrates present in dry commercial and vegan diets. Raw meat diets have a much lower glycemic index, which helps reduce insulin resistance, inflammation, and post-oxidative stress. All protein is made from only 23 different amino acids. Hello, I'm reading about cat nutrition. Cats are able to make only 12 amino acids, which don't specifically need not to be present in a cat's diet since they can synthesize them. These are called non-essential amino acids. Then there are the other 11 amino acids their bodies need, which cats can't produce or synthesize and must be obtained directly from their diet. These are called essential amino acids: arginine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, thurline, tryptophan, valine, and taurine. Yeah, these. I don't know if I pronounced those correctly. All of those, a bunch of neens. Neens. All right, let's keep going. The protein in animal tissue has a complete amino acid profile. Plant proteins do not contain all of the amino acids critical for the health of carnivores. If a plant-based only diet is fed for long enough, these nutrient deficiencies can lead to serious and sometimes irreversible medical conditions. A lack of any essential amino acid in the diet will eventually lead to health problems. For example, arginine deficiency causes toxic levels of ammonia to build up in the body, resulting in vomiting, muscle spasms, seizures, coma, and death. A shortage of taurine induces cardiomyopathy, a serious form of heart disease, central retinal degeneration, and blindness. Retinal is eyes. So, yes, Smooshy, the two vegan kitties that I told you about, oh my goodness, they had really bad hearts and they had really bad eyes. Animal-based protein sources, such as meat, eggs, dairy, and fish, contain more essential amino acids than do plant-based protein sources, such as wheat, rice, soybeans, or corn gluten meal. Products that rely on plants to provide most of their protein cannot provide all of the essential amino acids cats need without supplementation, even if the food appears to be high protein based in its guaranteed analysis. In the case of vegetarian and vegan diets, the amino acids, vitamins, and minerals must be heavily supplemented and thus come from synthetic or lab created sources. This is not ideal, as diets of whole foods as presented in nature with minimal processing yield better nutrition. Besides the issue of a lack of complete amino acid profile, vegan and vegetarian diets are, by their nature, far too high in carbohydrates for an obligate carnivore. If you are making a diet from plant sources, carbohydrates are going to be a major source of the calories in the food. Cats have no requirement for carbohydrates. All they need are fats and protein. A vegan vegetarian diet simply can't provide that. Cats are strict carnivores. They're from the same biological family as lions, tigers, jaguars, mountain lions, and other big cats. All cats need to eat more protein than do dogs or people. These levels can be hard or impossible to reach with vegetarian diet and particularly a vegan diet. Cats that don't get adequate amounts of protein, taurine, niacin, uh, uh, arachidonic acid. Let's see. I don't know how to say that. One's mushy. And vitamins A, B1, and B12 in their diets are at risk for eye disease, skin and coat problems, blood clotting disorders, immune system dysfunction, poor growth, weight loss, inflamed gums, diarrhea, neurological disorders, and death. One of the vegan kitties I'm telling you about, Smooshy, he was tiny. He was like the size of a kitten his whole life. He was so tiny. If you're if feeding meat to your cat is going to be an issue, please consider adopting a true vegetarian instead. Rabbits, chinchillas, and guinea pigs can be wonderful pets. Dr. Guillermo Diaz and family, including their four dogs, Leroy, Zika, Moza, and Peppa, and six cats, Michelina, Tigger, Vladimir, Yellow, Mongo, and Cherusa, moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina in July of 2017, where he expects to continue supporting different animal rescue groups, spread the benefits of raw food for cats and dogs, and write articles about nutrition. So that was the nutrition Dr. Guillermo Diaz. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Guillermo. I think it's Guillermo. I believe, I believe, I believe when there's two L's in Spanish, I think isn't it like silent? It's like an H. Guillermo. Anyways. All right, and then it gives the sources of the articles, which those in themselves would be super interesting to read. Let's go back and go on to the next article. Answers. What dry food does to your cat's teeth? Here we go. Okay, back to smoosh smoosh. For years, I've been feeding my cat the commercial dry diet my vet recommended. In the last visit to the clinic, however, he told me she was developing tartar on her teeth. Her gums were inflamed, uh, and she needed to go under anesthesia for a dental cleaning. How can this be? I've followed his instructions verbatim. I feel like there's something missing here. And you know, Smooshy, not all kitties can go under anesthesia. Some kitties have heart issues like you do. A lot of Sphinx kitties have heart issues. And if they have heart issues, they can't go under anesthesia because it's too dangerous. So then what do you do if you have teeth issues? You know, it's just not as simple. By the way, Smooshy on YouTube, there's this veterinarian. He's Canadian. His name is Dr. Andrew Jones. He practiced for 20 years in a clinic, and now he just talks to people online, and he's very holistic. And he has some remedies for treating teeth without surgery, and we're going to try that for you, such as coconut oil, because coconut oil has antimicrobial properties. Or no, back I forget. Go listen to Dr. Andrew Jones for better information about how to handle teeth if you can't do surgeries. Somebody wrote, Jews eat cat. Okay, whoever you are, let's see if I can. Let's see. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. People are weird. People are so weird. Okay. The fact that we humans have taken the cat with us to live under a roof doesn't change their marvelous biology and evolution as true obligate carnivores. In fact, what we have taken home is a miniature tiger, lion, or leopard. You name it. Domestic cats have kept the carnivore instincts they evolved with intact as they moved in with humans. We are the ones who are making a mistake when we stray from what evolution and nature has provided the cat. During my veterinary internship, one of the rotations I was required to do was at the zoo working with big cats such as pumas, lions, and tigers of different ages. During that time, I never encountered a single big cat with tartar built up on its teeth. This was in sharp contrast to the great number of domestic cats I saw who did. The questions popped up instantly in my mind. How have these big felines managed to keep their teeth so neat? Why do we fail to get the same results with our cats at home? The answer is simple. The difference is in the food. Big cats and domestic cats share the same body form and the same dental structure and shape. They all have big canines designed to rip and tear a carcass, and upper and lower molars and premolars that close perfectly like scissor blades, designed to shatter bones and slice flesh. When eating raw meat and bones, the act itself of chewing and gnawing serves as a polisher of the surface of the teeth, preventing the buildup of plaque and tartar. This is the equivalent of humans brushing and flossing our teeth. This happens every day with every meal, which means felines consuming raw meat bones get a daily dental cleaning and brushing. I'm reading the comments. Cat. It's a kitty cat. It goes meow, meow, meow. Yes, it does. Unfortunately, the opposite occurs when we feed our cats commercial dry food. The shape of the kibble is generally small in size, which makes it difficult for a cat to chew, so they generally swallow the whole pellet as presented. This has zero polishing effect on the surface of the teeth. Moreover, when in contact with the saliva, the high content of carbohydrates or polysaccharides in the pellet is released and adheres to the surface of the teeth, causing the first stage in the formation of tartar and periodontal disease, dental plaque. Once this plaque has set in, stage 2 begins, the buildup of tartar, also called calculus. From here onwards, hi baby, let me fix the camera. There we go. From here onwards, we can find different levels of periodontal disease. This gradation exceeds the aim in this article, but the important thing for owners to remember is that the calculus on the tooth carries millions of bacteria which reproduce at a high rate. The byproduct of this is stinky breath, ingestion of toxins, drooling, sore and bleeding gums, loose teeth, tooth loss, and destruction of the jawbone. The damage can reach different and vital organs such as kidneys, lungs, heart, and liver as the bacteria spreads beyond the mouth. In the worst case, this can be life-threatening. Your cat's oral health needs to be taken very seriously. A small test with dogs conducted in Australia showed how quickly dry foods can affect the teeth. 4 dogs, who were all raw, meaty bone eaters, were fed only dry kibble for 17 days. At the end of the experiment, the dogs had developed stinky breath and yellow teeth. Some of them lost weight. All of them had behavioral changes, itchy skin, bad breath, and intestinal disorders, including larger volumes of stools, offensive smell, and runniness. Even though this test was with dogs, not cats, the effect is the same for carnivores that evolved to eat a prey-based diet. So the lesson is clear. Give your cat what Mother Nature intended her to eat. A raw food diet should include meat chunks and raw meaty bones to provide the scraping cleaning action, and encourage your cat to gnaw and chew using the scissor-like side teeth. Avoid carbohydrate-based foods that can set your cat up for dental problems. While every cat is different, and some are genetically more predisposed to dental problems, feeding the right kind of food can give your cat the best possible chance for a healthy mouth. Note: Feline Nutrition provides feline health and nutrition information as a public service. Diagnosis and treatment of specific conditions should always be in consultation with your own veterinarian. Feline Nutrition disclaims all warranties and liability related to the veterinary advice and information, disclaims, not claims, provided in this site. And then this article was written by Dr. Guillermo Diaz, who now lives in Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. What a pretty name. Buenos Aires. Okay. What's the next article? Oop, my charger. I gotta make sure my charger is plugged in, Smooshy. Oh, this article is Don't Let Your Senior Cat Become a Skinny Old Kitty. Aw, that's happened to other kitties in the past. But I didn't know then what I know now, Smooshy. I have to admit that I fed certain kitties kibble I didn't know then what I know now. Yeah. I've received a number of inquiries from veterinarians and cat owners asking about the daily protein requirements for cats. How about protein requirements for clinically normal geriatric or senior cats with a non-thyroidal illness? Non-thyroidal, like thyroid. Okay. These are excellent questions given the fact that all cats will need higher amounts of proteins as they age to prevent a loss in lean body mass and associated muscle wasting. The dogma that all older cats be fed reduced energy senior diets must be questioned based on what is now known about the increasing energy requirements and nutritional needs of older cats. The higher maintenance energy requirements of geriatric cats, in combination with their impaired ability to digest protein, will lead to loss of muscle mass if their overall energy and protein needs are not met. In addition to an increased caloric intake, older cats also require higher amounts to maintain reserves compared with younger adults. As cats age, they absorb and metabolize it, metabolize it less efficiently. Therefore, it's extremely important to feed them high quality protein from animal sources rather than grain based sources, as well as an adequate quantity. In the United States, the primary sources for minimal nutritional requirements in healthy cats are the National Research uh, are the National Research Council, the NRC, and the Association of American Feed Control Officials, or AFCO. Over the last few years, AFCO's nutrition profiles have replaced the NRC recommendations as the official source for nutritional information for commercial pet foods in the United States. Although AFCO establishes standards on which states base their feed laws and regulations, it has no direct regulatory authority. As with the recommended dietary allowances for people, AFCO pet food nutrient profiles are not necessarily optimal, but rather act as guidelines to fulfill the minimal requirements. More importantly for this discussion, neither AFCO nor the NRC has ever established nutrient profiles for senior or geriatric normal cats. Therefore, the AFCO guidelines provide us with little assistance in determining the optimal daily protein needs of older cats. How much protein do normal cats want to eat? As obligate carnivores, they need proportionally more protein in their diet compared to other mammals. They do not have a dietary requirement for carbohydrates. They are adapted to eat a protein-rich, carbohydrate diet, no carbohydrate poor diet. The composition of a cat's diet in the wild, as a percentage of calories or metabolizable energy ingested, is approximately 50 to 60% protein, 30 to 50% fat, and 5 to 10% carbohydrates. Jonathan Davis says, first, let's do calculations about the likely daily intake for cats living in the wild. We know that in the wild, where they can choose what prey they ingest, they would normally ingest at least 50% of their daily calorie needs as protein. The daily energy requirements for a typical inactive adult is about 40 to 50 kilocalories per kilogram of body weight per day, denoted as kcal/kg day, whereas the energy requirements for active or underweight cats is up to 80 kcal/kg day. So if 50% of a cat's calories are derived from ingested protein and it provides 3.5 k, oh no, Smooshy, what's happening to my voice? Excuse me. 3.5 kcal of energy per gram, denoted as G, that would calculate into 5.7 G kg day of protein for a cat consuming. This is a lot of math. Whew. All right. You can read the article if you want to go into all these details. Some of this does not translate when you read out loud, right? It ruins story time. In support of these calculations is a recent study that examined the diet composition of 42 clinically normal colony cats aged 2.9 to 9.1 years that were allowed to voluntarily choose the composition of their diet in order to fulfill their daily caloric needs. In other words, this study asked the question, when cats can choose their own proportion of protein, fats, and carbohydrates to fulfill their daily energy requirements, what did they actually eat? In that study, investigators found that the intake target was close to 26 grams per day of protein, 9 grams per day of fat, and 8 grams per day of carbohydrate, yielding a macronutrient energy composition of 52% protein, 36% fat, and 12% carbohydrate. Since the mean body of weight of these 42 cats was 4.9 kilograms, that would calculate to a daily intake of approximately 5.3 kilograms per day. The daily value of 5.3 kilograms per day is close to the lower end of my calculated range of 5.7 to 11.4 grams of kilograms per day for cats in the wild. Why the lower end? The likely reason relates to the fact that these research cats were inactive. Therefore, their calculated energy requirement was only about 45 kcal/kg per day. Remember that they were allowed to voluntarily choose to eat protein over carbohydrates, but they were not allowed to eat as much as they wanted. The more calories they ingest, of course, the higher their daily protein intake. Summary: the optimal daily protein intake in clinically normal, young to middle-aged cats appears to range from approximately 5.5 to 11.5 kilograms. Dietary protein requirements for the senior or geriatric cat. What do we know? Up to this point, everything I've discussed has been in clinically normal, young to middle-aged adults of less than 10 years of age. You're 9, Smooshy. You're 9. What happens to their daily energy and protein requirements as they age? Well, it turns out that maintenance energy requirements decrease as cats mature and become middle-aged, 4 to 9 years of age, explaining the tendency of many cats to gain weight during this time. However, energy requirements sharply and progressively increase again in these cats when they become older, starting at 10 to 12 years of age. If daily caloric intake is not increased, progressive weight loss will result, due in large parts to the loss of lean body mass, muscle mass, a phenomenon referred to as the sarcopenia of aging. And by the way, that happens to adults or to humans as well. Muscle wasting away. There have been 2 studies examining the protein requirements needed to maintain lean muscle mass in adult colony cats. None of these study cats were geriatric or had sarcopenia of aging, but both studies emphasized the importance of adequate, high-quality dietary protein in maintaining lean body mass. In the first study, cats were fed 3 isocaloric diets with protein levels of 22%, 28%, or 30%, 36% on a dry matter or DM basis. In this study, the sources for these diets included poultry, soy, fish, and crystalline amino acids to meet amino acid requirements. Only the cats on 36% dry matter protein were able to maintain their lean body mass, whereas the cats on the 28 and 22% protein diets lost lean body mass. When using maintenance of lean body mass as an index of daily protein needs in these young adult cats, the calculated protein requirements was 5.28 grams kilograms per day. This is identical to the calculated protein intake of 5.3 grams kilograms per day in the study reported above that looked at what dietary composition cats want to eat. Whew. There's a lot more on this article. Here we go. The second study examined the effects of two isocaloric diets containing a low or high amounts of proteins. In this study, the protein sources for these diets included corn, wheat, soy protein isolate, poultry, and poultry byproduct meal. These cats were previously fed a 36% on a dry matter basis protein diet and were switched to diets at 30% dry matter and 53% dry matter protein in a crossover design. Interestingly, when cats were on the 30% protein diet, they lost about 1.2% of their lean body mass. But when the cats were fed the 53% protein diet, they averaged an accumulation of 4.2% of lean body mass. This change in muscle mass is not surprising, as cats can oxidize protein for energy as it is increased. A third study by the same investigators calculated a requirement of 5.28 grams per kilograms day was needed for maintenance of lean body mass in cats. And then it has this little, how many grams of protein does that food have? And then it tells you how you can calculate that. Therefore, the amount of protein intake in cats for maximal retention of muscle mass has yet to be defined, but it is clear that some cats may benefit from high protein diets well beyond the NRC requirements, and feeding normal healthy adult cats at least 5.5 to 6 grams kilograms per day or more may actually be ideal. As cats age and reach 11 to 12 years of age, both caloric and protein intake should be progressively increased by a factor of 1.1 to 1.6, which is a 10 to 60% increase to maintain muscle mass and prevent the sarcopenia of aging. For geriatric cats, this increased need calculates to at least 6 to 8.5 gram kilogram day. It is very clear that not all proteins are created equal, especially when feeding an obligate carnivore such as the cat. The biological value of a protein is a measure of that protein's ability to supply amino acids, especially the 11 essential amino acids, and to supply these amino acids in the proper proportions. It is well established that animal proteins, meat, and meat byproducts have higher biological values than vegetable proteins. Corn, gluten meal, soybean meal, soy protein isolate. In addition to biological value, protein digestibility is key. What good is a food with a higher protein content if the protein isn't also easy to digest? In the short digestive tracts of cats, plant proteins are far less digestible than meat proteins. These issues are important when selecting a food for any cat, but they become of utmost importance when selecting a diet for the geriatric cat. Therefore, grain-based proteins should never be used as the primary protein source for geriatric cats. My bottom line: the optimal daily protein intake in clinically normal young to middle-aged cats appears to range from approximately 5.5 to 11.5 gram kilogram. Both energy needs and protein requirements progressively increase as cats age, starting at age 10 to 12 years. Therefore, to help maintain lean body mass and promote optimal health, geriatric cats should receive diets that will provide at least 6 to 8 grams and preferably more of high quality protein kilogram body weight per day. To provide these amounts of protein, the key is to feed highly nutritious diets that provide at least 50% of calories or metabolizable, it's a big word, energy as protein from animals, not plants or grains. Attaining these amounts of daily protein will be next to impossible feeding diets that contain less than 35 to 40% of calories as protein unless the cat can eat large amounts of food and therefore calories each day. This article was written by Dr. M.A.K.E. Peterson, and he has been deeply involved in clinical research for over 35 years and remains at the forefront of the science that advances the study and knowledge of endocrine diseases in cats. He was the first veterinarian to document hyperthyroidism in cats in 1979 and the first to treat hyperthyroid cats with radioiodine in 1980. In addition to hyperthyroidism, Dr. Peterson was the first to document a number of new diseases in cats, including acromegaly, hypoparathyroidism, insulinemia, and ads, whatever. If you want to read that, you can go and read all that stuff at hairtoday.com. And that is all for today, Smooshy. We got through more articles learning about feeding a raw diet to kitties. And I hope you learned a lot, Smooshy. Okay, bye-bye.